I'll grab one here. Yeah. Okay. I got to quit doing that, man. All right. When we start getting into this, we're going to move quickly, so be prepared. I've got a few questions. How many of you are involved with or deal with one of those patriot groups? You know what I mean, whatever you want to call them. Just give me a raise of hands. I'm going to need you to interact. I'm used to being a teacher. I taught prodigy students, not your typical human beings, but, 7th to 9th grade students that if you left them alone for 5 seconds and didn't challenge them constantly, they built bombs in the back of the room. I mean, it was just, it was hard to, so I need interaction. So I'm going to ask again, how many of you are involved with or study with one of the patriot groups? A for V, Creditors in Commerce. No, give me a raise of hands. I can't see this. Thank you. Okay. We will not be covering any of that stuff. I'm 48 years old. I started out in those movements when I was 12. I did not grow up believing what most of you believe. So, and when I got back from the Army, I spent a lot of time running around with guys like Bo Greitz, if you know him, and a lot of the other so-called founders of the movements and all that, and a bunch of different groups. I've gotten enough knowledge to where I know what works and what doesn't. So I shy away from most of that stuff. Even the stuff that has some practicality or is fundamentally basic in law, we're going to shy away from. We don't teach that here. This is about operating in court through the normal procedures and winning your case in what you would consider the normal world. How many people are in foreclosure? By that I mean haven't already lost their house. How many people are in foreclosure? Okay, how many people have lost the foreclosure battle but have not yet gone through an unlawful or a forceful detainer or a writ of execution? Okay, how many people have gone through the unlawful detainer, forceful detainer concept but still haven't gotten the writ of execution? Okay, we're going to cover all of that stuff. We have had cases turn around in an unlawful detainer. Literally, they lost the foreclosure. They went in, and in Arizona, we call it a forcible detainer. Most states, you'll use the term unlawful detainer. Remember, this is all predicated for non-judicial foreclosure states. In judicial foreclosure states, those cases would be so easy to win if the homeowners knew the law. I don't even bother with them. In a judicial foreclosure state, I'd just throw in some documents and walk away with the house. So we will be covering that aspect of it. I was talking to somebody earlier that had a little issue with the sheriff during the unlawful detainer. I highly suggest you do not be confrontational with people that grew up and wanted to walk around with a gun and tell people what to do. Just advice, been there, done that. The way that the laws in most states appear to be, I got to give a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. I am not an attorney. I have a soul. So I do teach attorneys, and I used to teach patent law, but couldn't do that bar thing and didn't go to school. When somebody comes to your door and says, get out, and they've got a gun, irrespective of whether they have a valid order from a judge or even have the piece of paper, you can leave. Wait till they leave, and you can go right back. They haven't changed the locks yet. The way that the law is written, remember, this is not legal advice, just my opinion. We're teaching here, totally disclaim from any legal advice. You can go back to the house and go back in. And if they want to come back out and remove you, they got to go back to court first. They can't reuse that order. That order is a one-time shot deal. Most states are that way. Sheriff comes out with that order, removes you from the house, you leave. You go back 2 hours later, they want to remove you again, they got to get another order. It can take a month. Usually does take a month. How many people are familiar with my concept of show me the loan? Okay, if you go to the back page of the book, the diagram that is taped up here is in color. It explains it very, very simply. The first thing I want to do is to kind of go over that concept, because that is going to be the basis of everything that we teach and why our concepts work. So let's go ahead and go to the back page and look at the diagram. Now, I'm going to try and explain this as simply as possible. That's a house. A man's home is his castle. Look, prima facie evidence. This is a big old bundle of money. This is a promissory note. Visuals. This is a deed of trust. Now, you know what? I'll get in front of the podium here. All right. So, the reason I'm going to do this is people have a tendency to learn better with visuals. IQs notwithstanding, human beings are just that way. Actually, males more than females, but we don't need to go into that. So, yeah, no, it's just a fact. It's really not a judgment call. So this is the house. You go to the builder, you go to the bank or whatever, I want that house. So you fill out a promissory note, and you sign it. And you go, hey, banker, you soulless demon from hell, I would like to buy that house. And he goes, sure, cool, give me a promissory note. That deal's done. Do you understand that that deal is done? It's fully consummated. The one thing that I find most disgusting about all of this is we talk about all kinds of laws. There are over 100 different codes in U.S. and state law. The one that we know mostly is the Uniform Commercial Code. Everybody's familiar with the CCC, correct? Or the UCC, correct? There's all kinds of other codes. Another one of those codes is called Money Transmitter Law. You will never see it mentioned anywhere. Why do you think you'll never see it mentioned anywhere? Because that's what this is, and they don't want you to know it. Check cashing stores popped up, got real common a few years ago. Those are under money transmitter laws. Look up that law and read it, and a lot of this will make a lot more sense to you. So, in the so-called patriot groups, you get this, HJR 192, blah, 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 there is no money. Okay, my signal for that is, there is money. Look in Black's Law Dictionary. Money is very well defined. We have money in the United States. It's called currency. It's called Federal Reserve notes, gold, all kinds of things. When you look at money transmitter law, I'm exchanging one type of currency for another. Is real property a type of currency? Yes. Can you take and exchange quarters for pesos? Okay. So can you exchange a check for cash? You can exchange real property for cash too. This deal is consummated. Understand, when you gave somebody a promissory note and they gave you a house, that deal is done. And I got to be real careful what I say here. If you were, this is hypothetical, not that this happens, and not that any of my friends are having a good time. If you were to go to a builder and want to buy the house and sign the promissory note, and then, obviously, you would never plan this out, and strictly by accident, you were to get a call and have an emergency after signing the promissory note and have to leave and not be able to fill out the deed of trust. Like I say, this is purely hypothetical. And so the mortgage company was to call you several times, say, come back, fill out the deed of trust, blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, well, I had this emergency. I'll see you in a few days. I'll see you in a few days. And you come back a couple of weeks later. And a couple weeks later and say, you know what? I don't want to sign the deed of trust. Give me back my promissory note. And hypothetically, the bank, after the expletives like, oh shit, should have thought that one out, says, the note's gone because they already fractionalized it. Hypothetically, would you get that $1.23 million house and be done with that deal? Oh, yeah, you would. Hypothetically, I guarantee you would. So we have this other deal where there's a whole bunch of money sitting there. That's called a bank, mortgage company. And you sign this bizarre document called a deed of trust, which doesn't really make any sense anyways. It's kind of like the saying, the so-called motto, in God we trust, which really isn't a motto. It's actually the name of the trust company that holds all of the U.S. When you do corporate law, you know that a trust ends in the word trust. It's actually the in God we trust. I know when I discovered that years ago, people, for the first month, all I heard was that I was insane, and for the next month, it's like, how did you figure that one out? It's like, I didn't, I was asleep during class. So, you go to get this bundle of money, and you sign this deed of trust. So they have the deed of trust. Did you ever get that bundle of money? Did anybody get that bundle of money? You show me the loan. You never got it. See, the trick is, we know this by Carpenter v. Longan, 1872 or 78. What? The promissory note is the dog. The deed of trust is the tail. You cut the tail off, the dog will live, the tail's going to die. So a deed of trust cannot stand without a promissory note. It can't. Doesn't exist. It's invalid. It's like it never happened. The promissory note is fine. Federal Reserve notes are truly nothing more than promissory notes. The problem being that it's a foreign entity that's making the promise. They don't have to keep their promise. We're screwed. Good plan for them, not so good for us. So when you did that exchange, where did the deed of trust and the money tied to that tied to the promissory note? Does anybody know? Do you know why you don't know? Because it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it.